Great, Arshad. Well, good to see you. Again, sorry about all the mix-up yesterday, but I hope that we've got the technical issues behind us.
Yeah,
All right. So, what time is it in Singapore?
around 10:30. Yeah.
Okay, PM, right? Okay, of course, yes. All right. Well, thanks for staying up late, and I know yesterday you were up even later. Yesterday, I guess, was almost midnight, huh?
Yeah, 1
Okay.
a.m.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So what we do on these interviews, and again, sorry, Matt's not going to be here, but he'll be able to watch this interview and we'll make some decisions based on that. But what we want to do is we start with giving you the floor to tell us a little bit about your product, what you're building. I know it's a social entrepreneurship activity. Um, your customers, fundraising, anything that kind of applies. And then if you leave out gaps, we'll definitely come in and ask you questions. So why don't we go ahead and start with giving you the floor and telling us about what you're working on and what you're learning as a result.
All right. So my social enterprise is called Remainder. So it's focused on food valorization, and the main aim of the social enterprise is to reduce food waste through food valorization. So that's where we upcycle products or food products that are generally considered to be of a lower value and upcycle them into a higher value by converting them. So one example would be taking okara and turning it into a nutritious biscuit, or taking coffee grounds and turning it into beverages. So the ways in which we move forward with finance is there are two ways. Like for every SE, we do look at funds and grants. So we are currently on a grant from the Youth Action Challenge in Singapore. So that gives us around $8,000. And so we've gotten our KPIs and our deliverables set up already, and we would be signing the LOA sometime at the end of this week, if I'm not wrong. And for on the process of reflection and what I learned, I think one of the biggest parts that I learned is documentation and administrative work, because previously in other student organizations which I were a part of, it really didn't require things like KPIs. It didn't require things like deliverables. It didn't require us to do documentation or put our name down as a founder and set up a proper organizational hierarchy and structure. But for
Mm,
this, we had to put forward time towards ensuring it was done. And then jumping ahead towards customers. So we focus on three areas. We focus on businesses looking to improve their corporate social responsibility, their CSR. And we look at restaurants and farms and other organizations that actually produce food waste or need a way to deal with food waste. And lastly, we target schools. Since we're a youth organization, we have a primary audience focused on schools and the youth. So we are having plans to come up with educational programs where we take a percentage of the revenue and we help teach students about things about food waste, about sustainable living, and aquaponics as well. Currently, how we raise money is also through the selling of sustainable products. So we've sort of finished the seed stage where we've gotten our idea ready. We've split our project roll up into three phases. So the first phase is research and scaling up. So within the research phase, we've met with organizations, we've met with industrial experts in this field. And for the scaling up part, we've started our social media accounts. We're getting daily engagements. We're posting regularly. We have collaborations with other farms based in Singapore. And additionally, we've also focused on expanding our team, right? So we initially were a team of three, and then I started networking. So that was one thing that I learned as well, how to network, how to interview people, how to know which candidate is the best for the job.
mhm.
So from there, we've even gone to having chapter organizations with where the most active one is currently in Fiji, and we're setting up the rest in Java and India as well. And we have members from all around the globe as well, and from a wide age group from 13 all the way till 18. And that's because of the networking that I managed to do, where I pulled some contacts from my previous organizations and from previous competitions and groups which I were a part of, and I reached out to those individuals as to whether they were interested, and they actually managed to pass it on. And once we did all of that, we sort of looked at our organization, looked at what we need help in. So we began spreading out our SC to have a director of outreach, to have a director of social media, of publicity, of journalism, and etc. The list goes on and on. So then we would then be focusing on phase two, right? So that is where we start making a profit so that we would be able to push it back into the main aim, which is to reduce food waste. So currently we are planning to scale up. We're planning to focus at schools where we would be selling sustainable products. So some of them include sustainable straws that are made from bamboo and not, the typical plastic straws. So that is our, initial starting to make a profit. Why? Because it's easy to import straws from countries which, have mass production, and it's easy to sell it with a high turnover. So the profit and revenue that we will be getting in from these sort of small ventures would help build up. So then from there onwards, we've gone on to a farm in Singapore, for example, where we're currently, of course, I can't reveal too much because of NDAs that we signed, but we're working on creating a sort of revenue sharing model where we help them with their educational process, and we add to their educational curriculum that they provide to students from all over Singapore. And by working on that and by developing that, we get a revenue at the end, and we also help to increase the focus on food waste. It's an aquaponics company. We've also teamed up with another organization that focuses on food rescues. So that's focused on our sort of social goodness and social media platform outreach. And then we reach the sort of final third phase, and we plan to reach there within a year. So what we would be doing is being able to access these contacts and accessing various farms. We've reached out to food bank. We've even reached out to international food organizations that focus on preserving the culture of food, for example. So with all of these connections, what we would be planning to do is to create this sort of platform where we would earn a revenue from organizations that would be looking to join into this platform. And the food waste that would be produced will be, so it's sort of like a give and take, right? So we give food waste, and why would organizations be willing to give up food waste, right? One, because they get money from it, and two, it's difficult to get rid of waste. And especially in Singapore, where, our company is sort of growing, since it's very land scarce, and since even though that it's a very efficient landfill system, the landfill is filling up, and it's getting even more difficult to sort out the waste and getting more expensive, even with the inflation from the pandemic. So companies are actually willing to give that waste, and some of them are willing to give it for free. We've gone to some companies where it's called like a central kitchen, like sort of like a soup kitchen, and they're willing to give their soya for free for farms, and they still have a lot left over. So then businesses would come in and they would buy these products, and they would be effectively able to upcycle them or food valorize these products. So that is like our third phase, right? Where we have this sort of setup where we have this sort of platform where people can collaborate together as organizations, but then we would also have this sort of social media and youth focus aspect. So that is where we're really pointing at.
Let me interrupt you a little bit. Clearly you have a good grasp of the business implications and the kind of the business strategy about this, which is really impressive. Really love to hear that. Wanted to press down on a few questions, those that are around specifics. So from the income side, you've got this grant from the youth group that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Who would be your first targeted customer? Like who is the group or individual that is most likely to be the first time that someone pays you for upcycled food?
For upcycled food, that would happen at phase 3. But the first person who would be our customer would be students at our schools.
Students, gotcha. And that's where the straws, that's the first product that
Yes.
you're trying to bring in. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And when do you expect bringing that into schools and testing it?
So immediately after we get our LOA, that would be, it would get ready and we would get the money in by June. And then by August, when school reopens, we would be planning to move into that phase.
Fantastic, fantastic. And how many schools are you thinking about? Is this a pilot, kind of a prototype?
Yes. So we would start it off at our 2 schools. The founding members, as the founding members, we come from 2 separate schools. And then since we have other members in Singapore, we would be expanding to them as well.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Got it. So wouldn't imagine two years from now, do you imagine this to be something that you are doing full time, close to full time? Is this something you hand off to someone else? What are your thoughts?
I think 2 years from now, I would still be working with this company. And but I do think that for the Singapore chapter, I would be handing it off to someone else because I want to sort of, decentralize from Singapore as well and become more international. But we always need somewhere to work with. And then my next plan of action would be, going to an educational institution at university where I would actually be able to, learn about technology and learn about the interdisciplinary focus with, sustainability, climate science, and all of that. And then I will be able to go back and actually have a more refined and more professional look at contribution.
Yeah. Right. So you're let me say what I heard, that you imagine going to university, and at university you would still be working on some of this work while you're learning, but you'd be going to university to learn how to do this work better or how to grow it. Yeah. So I, just as an aside, I think when a young person knows why they're going to university, right? Not just I want to be an engineer, right? Because that's too broad to be actually that useful. If they wanted to, to build, an electric car, that's a very different type of kind of focus. And what I'm hearing you is more like that, which is I have something specific that I want to do. I know I'm going to need a lot of other things to go with it, from marketing to international relations to the science of upcycling food and food valorization. Like, there's a ton of stuff that you could glean from a university environment that would entirely drive and help you with this work. And I'll just say one other piece: even if you decide that this is not where you want to go, or maybe you reach a point and it just kind of doesn't go any further, all of the skills that you've learned around marketing and science and the connections you make, all those will be useful anywhere you go. So I'm really impressed that you have found something that you're going to use as like a bit of an anchor for your learning for the next few years, and then see what happens. But I'm very impressed. It sounds like you're really on the ball here. Another couple questions. You mentioned you've got staff, or not staff, you've got a team of people. How are you working out the finances? So you got the $8,000 grant. How is that being distributed? How are you using that money?
So the benefit is that everyone, since we're youth individuals, right? Everyone that is part of our team, for the first year, they would all be working as volunteers, and none of them are even expecting to be paid as such. Yep. They are really there for the social good out of it. But for the 8,000, the way we plan to divide it is, so we have a CFO, right? So within that finance department, we've sort of separated and we've created a budget sheet where, we've accounted for what money goes into Adobe, what money goes into getting the domain, building the website, what money goes for storage, what money goes for transport, what money goes for the purchase of these items. So we've for the application of this grant, not even to get it accepted or reviewed, but to even apply to this grant, we would have needed to submit the budget template. So that is something that I learned as well. Finance.
Nice.
I wasn't really strong in finance before, but now I'm getting more strong with it. And also reaching out to other companies, learning how they deal with their finances is very important, because I get to learn more as to how companies actually grow and what in within certain time frames, how much they can develop, especially from like a Singapore focus and point of view.
Yes. Now, do you have a website?
We do not have a website. We have an Instagram, and our
Okay.
website, we have a website developer who's working on it right now. So by
Is
the
that
time
volunteer or is that paid?
a volunteer as well.
Smart.
So
Mhm.
August, we would have it online and ready.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Excellent. And do you have a name for this company?
The name, Remainder.
Remainder. Got it.
So
Tell me
it's like,
what's that?
yeah. So remainder is like a play on two words. The first word is remainder. So like the remainder of food waste. We
Hmm.
need to really step in, put in our work, and reduce the food waste, because food waste is actually one of the most ludicrous problems our world is facing,
Yeah.
because no one should be wasting food when there are millions of people that are starving. And
Agreed.
the other part of it is reminder. So within our social media, which started January, we've started posting things called remainder of the day.
Hmm.
That's like
Hmm.
reminding everyone how they can stay sustainable, how they can compost within their homes, how they can reduce their food waste. So those are the two places where we play at. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Well, love it. Yeah, you're doing great work. Okay, so we have one more week before we have to decide on the finalists. And so between now and I think the 6th or 7th, we're going to be doing some more interviews and then going through all the folks that have interviewed. You're very strong interview. It sounds like you're doing some really good work. Really, really, very impressed. But I think I've heard enough for today, and we will let you know about kind of what happens next. I will say this too: there's a young woman in Michigan who is also interested in food waste. She's looking at it from a different angle. She's looking at it from um, food that gets um, that goes out of date during transport. So vegetables that deteriorate in the shipping containers, et cetera. And so she's working with some faculty at a university around changing the environment of those shipping containers and the trucks to keep food fresher longer. And so
Yeah.
there may be a connection point from the two of you guys, maybe to look at working together. And then secondly, I don't know if you heard or saw the invitation for May 13th, um, the social, like the networking event. Do you have a group of people who are kind of coaching you on your work? It sounds like you might. Do you have?
Well, not really. We do have a coach, but they serve more as a laid back mentor who we
Uh-huh.
ask like financial questions. But
Yeah,
apart from that, we really do the work ourselves. Yeah.
gotcha. Well, I've been reaching out to my contacts on LinkedIn, and I think there's a group of people out there, a group of adults, entrepreneurs who would be interested in helping to walk alongside young people like yourself. I don't know about the quality of their coaching. I just don't have a good sense about it. But from having been coached and having coached others, um, you don't usually rely on just one coach. You want to have multiple people who are giving you kind of feedback and counsel. And hopefully, if you're able to join on the 13th, you might be connected with a couple people who might say, "Hey, this is interesting. Let me walk alongside you." And then it also opens their network to you as well, because they may know somebody in a
Yeah.
part of this world that is helpful for you. So let me if you're able to make that meeting, that would be great. And I'll be connecting with some of the other potential coaches this week and seeing how many are willing to help out and for how long and what specifics about it. Another thought just I had was a young man I spoke with yesterday. His dad was really involved in online sales and marketing, and like an online store and how to do that. And so he built that with his dad's help. And so maybe there's young people who have access to parents or other people in their network that could, mix and match, right? Because I'm guessing what you're going to be working on, you're going to want to have an online store.
Yeah.
And that store is you're going to want to, of course, market that, but also, hopefully get some income that comes through that store. So I think there's maybe some opportunities for young people to kind of work together, figure out how to help each other. And that may be kind of cool. So, all right. Well, let me do this. Let me go ahead and cut this conversation now. I really appreciate you staying with us and working through the technology. And the next move will be sometime end of this week, early next week. We're going to send an email out with the finalists. And in between now and then, just keep the 20th and 21st reserved around this time. It's going to be late for you, unfortunately. But if you make to that round, you may have to, give another, presentation or something to that effect. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Great. Well, it's great meeting you again, Arshad, and looking forward to further conversations, whether you're in the final round or not. You're doing great work and would love to stay in touch. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Cool. More to come.
Yeah.
See you, buddy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.